When I was growing up, being a fan meant waiting. Waiting for your favorite movie to come out on VHS, waiting for the next issue of Entertainment Weekly or Fangoria, waiting for the next episode of your favorite TV show. Today, we don't wait for much of anything. We have thousands of movies on streaming services, YouTube, podcasts, and more entertainment than any one person could consume in a lifetime. So here's tonight's question. Has it ever been easier to be a fan? Or has having everything made fandom a little less special? To help answer that question, I'm joined by one of my oldest friends, Jeremy Corray. We met in college studying film, and while our careers took different paths, we both spent decades watching technology reshape not only the entertainment industry, but what it means to be a fan. Let's question everything. Jeremy, welcome to the show, and I'm curious to talk about fandom. I mean, we've been discussing fandom on this series, but we've been mainly talking sports. You and I are going to shift gears into more pop culture and film related because you, since the time you were a wee little boy growing up in the Highlands.
In the Illinois, that's right, in the cornfield behind a cemetery, which is why I love zombie movies.
As I say, ever since your days of shooting, damn, there's a lot of zombies in those woods.
Damn, still a great one. We got to get that made. There's scripts flowing out there. It's, two college friends. We've lived through it all, haven't we? Like a lot of your listeners, I'm sure. What a time, huh, to be alive and have all of these things and what fandom used to be back when you would have to go get, Fangoria magazine, literally, or something, or the days of Entertainment Weekly and Premiere. I know you and I lived through that Toy Fair magazine and all the things, so we really crossed a lot of incremental leaps in technology, but, overall, I'm positive it's never been a better time to be a fan. Look at this, Chad. I've got arcade games over here. I've got Aladdin's Castle and Chuck E. Cheese in my own basement. It's not crazy. And then little boxes that have every game ever on it. So the question is, if you have infinite inventory, what is special anymore? So it's hard to describe the monoculture, and I know a lot of folks are of our age and things. So anyway, we can get into it and my experiences and what a time to be a fan. I guess when everything is so toxic these days in these fandoms. So we'll have to see. I'm trying to bring some positivity to it all.
Perfect. That's what we like here. I was going to rebrand this whole series as my positive cynicism, but then I decided that I don't really know too much about branding, and my problems with the podcast that I used to do was the branding was all over the place. So we're keeping everything, trying to keep it simple, but the positive cynicism attitude remains, where it's okay to be cynical, but do it constructively, not just trying to be a jerk on the internet. But let's start.
You've always had that. There you go. You haven't changed.
Let's start back at the beginning, because film, again, you and I met in a TV station, both studying film in college. What was it about film? Do you remember? For me, Star Wars was the first movie I saw. Not A New Hope, but Star Wars. And that's what inspired me. Do you remember either the first movie you ever saw or the movie that made you want to get into filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking the other day as now, YouTube, watching like this show, right? Going to sleep, you just throw YouTube up on it, and there's just infinite. There's guys like us just dissecting, Disney's black hole, or like your previous the podcast and things, straight, out of Touchstone. So it's such a fun time to kind of go in those core memories and dig. So the seminal favorite is, the Ray Harryhausen Clash of the Titans with the Medusa scene, the stop motion, the terrifying things, and it'd always be on HBO. But I do distinctly remember seeing that in the theater and Mom taking me to that, or, The Fox and the Hound, just a little bit behind you there. So the first Star Wars I remember seeing was, Return of the Jedi. But I'm fascinated by people like yourself who remember, seeing Star Wars in the theater and the monoculture. And, it is easy to be the old man shouting at the cloud, but what it was like of like that was very special when something came out on, video, which in itself was a miracle. You had to go see a movie a couple different times. I wonder how they cosplayed back, and they just watch, the movie and be able to dissect the Darth Vader outfit, or again, a lot of things were in the magazines and that. So I'd say, filmmaking wise, it was just always storytelling, afternoon cartoon shows like G.I. Joe, Transformers, and of course Voltron, which I was lucky enough to work on that brand for several years as a dream come true. So a lot of it was just always wanting to get into storytelling, of course shooting on VHS, backyard zombie movies like we talked about, hooking up the Super Nintendo to the Street Fighter 2 sound effects, and that's how we were dubbing things. And just the miracle of having titles or something on your movie was a miracle in itself. So again, these are all things you can do on your phone now, but at the end of the day, it comes down to storytelling. And I think there's still good movies being made. There's still good stuff out there. But it was kind of fun when everybody was sort of into the same thing. Now you have all these groups and fractionalized fandoms, but I do miss sometimes, and that's why I've got a new rule, and I think this rule can help people enjoy movies more. And that rule is, don't watch the previews and don't read the reviews. Just go see the movie and be surprised. And then later, because we seem to be in this information culture so determined to have a point of view, spoil it, and unfortunately there's just so many things that at the end of the day, having worked in Hollywood, how hard it is to make any kind of movie. My goodness, the struggle to do it. No one sets out to make a bad movie by any means. You've worked on, movies. So just the labor of love. But, all of that's now changing in things with AI acceleration. So best of times, worst of times, Chad. But Clash of the Titans, and then seminal favorites like RoboCop, of course, which I think is a perfect movie. But there's still some just great bangers being made out there that you just have to scratch below the surface to get.
All right. Well, your answer there made me want to jump around.
That's what I do. ADHD powered.
Yeah, disregard my rundown. So films today, because I don't go to the theater that often anymore. Just there's different reasons: cost, time, and I think my biggest one is the movies themselves. And so, like you were saying, we live in a time now where everything is basically possible in film. You look back at the Ray Harryhausen films, Clash of the Titans, and compare that to the Odyssey, which just opened the day that we're recording this interview.
Yeah.
What took Harryhausen months now takes an animator. I mean, it still takes time, but you have the flexibility more than what Ray Harryhausen had. And I think for me, part of the problem with film these days is the story is the part that's missing, because it's like, what can we do? Okay, but we don't. I guess it's the Jurassic Park, the Jeff Goldblum question.
Yeah.
No, it's you ask, the filmmakers ask, what can we do, not why can we do it? Basically, I'm paraphrasing because I just lost the quote. But yeah. So do you feel that? And I think for me, also part of the problem is when COVID hit, I started working from home, and I had a lot of time on my hands. I was at home. I couldn't go anywhere. And I made a list went to Box Office Mojo, made a spreadsheet of the top 100 films from 1980 to 2019.
That's awesome.
And I crossed off every movie that I saw, and then spent the next 4 years watching all the ones I hadn't seen. So
that's awesome.
Is it? Because in those 4 years, I watched about 1,900 movies. And I think I have burnt myself out on film.
So what interests you, and that's okay, right? I think there's certain things, like I still try to get it up for video games sometimes, and it's like, I feel like I came to the conclusion the other night in front of a Switch 2, a projector, Star Fox remake. This is Nirvana, right? I have on the Switch 2 every game from my youth, and you sit there and play, and maybe it's just, after you've discovered girls and sex or something, you're just, you're out the door. But like, I feel like sometimes, and this basement's a living shrine to it, I just like having all the stuff like an old man and knowing you can play it. I've got a WrestleFest over there that you and I need to mod and put all the games on there. But it, it's something I guess you turn into more of a collector maybe than, and to your point, I get excited in talking to my wife about like, hey, let's go through all the Zeldas or something. So I'm kind of at that point where like, you can't put that off anymore, like you did. I admire just the quest, the odyssey that you went on there. But yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned the Harryhausen, but now I can pull out my phone and make Ray Harryhausen images. Before it was just such a magic portal, and there was such a premium on these images. And I go back. I think kind of there's folks have talked about this, but the death of the specialness of movies may have been when Walmart put them in the dollar bin. And you had these bins full of maybe Poor White Trash, the movie you worked on or something, like just there where there were these lost leader things. Whereas you and I remember, and I've got the Laserdisc player over there, and the tactile, that was special, that Terminator 2 coming to home video was a big deal. E.T. coming to home video was a big deal. And now I think it's all economics, right? The theatrical window has shrunk. The reason you're not seeing the type of movies that you'd like to see is because they don't make money, right, as much as the accountants. But I think we're in a resurgence. I know box office is up, and I think kids may be tired of getting on their phone. And you see this summer with some great films out there, and it's cliche now even to say, oh, the YouTube films, but it's an interesting time. And with properties like Voltron and things that I've personally worked on, it swings back and forth, and is it a time to be in intellectual property? Is it time to be in fandom? But what I just can't take anymore is just the toxic fandom around things. And Supergirl this summer sort of personified it for me. Again, didn't watch the trailer unless I'm in the theater, and the kind of trailer plays. I'll even look at my phone. I don't want any spoilers. I want to walk in the theater, Chad, like we used to, and see that there's a Ghostbusters 2 coming out. Are you kidding me right now? That surprise and delight, to use a marketing term, is sort of lost. So I kind of like being a little bit surprised. And at the end of the day, I know if I were to do a podcast, it'd be called "It's Just a Movie." Like at the enjoy it, enjoy the things, and something like Supergirl. I'm like, don't go in with such a who is. You've been in these rooms where these creatives have to figure out how to make this stuff interesting. St. Louis native James Gunn was tasked with doing that, his Superman, and he makes interesting choices, and how in a world of superhero movies, it's so hard to do different things. So if you look at Supergirl and say, hey, it was like a samurai movie in outer space, samurai revenge film, like that was cool, action set pieces. So I don't know, I'm a lot less harder on movies these days, that's for sure.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to jump on your specialness because we mentioned Star Wars earlier. Again, first film I saw, drive-in theater, double feature.
Oh, even better.
With the Duchess and the Dirtwater Fox, which I'm sure 90% of people watching this have forgotten if they ever knew that movie. It's Goldie Hawn and George Segal, Old West film. It. But the
double feature. That was standard in a lot of places.
Yeah. And, it's interesting now looking back because, again, as a kid, this wasn't something that I was focusing on, but the VHS for Star Wars didn't come to home video until after Empire Strikes Back was out. So it's like you couldn't even binge Star Wars before Empire came. I'm sure theaters were re-showing it as... Oh,
they were. Economics kept coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, God, they lived off that stuff. Yeah. That's how it was. Close Encounters is coming back to the theater. Yeah. Pretty rare.
Yeah, I mean, now Fathom Events has kind of stepped in and started redoing that on a nationwide level. Here in LA, obviously, we have the repository theaters that show the older films. But I said the only movie I've seen in a theater this year was Masters of the Universe. And I enjoyed it. I had low expectations going in because I just tried to set expectations realistic. Like, again, a movie out here in LA now costs $20 if you don't go on the Tuesday Prime. So it's like I couldn't tell you a movie that I've seen that's worth $20. But I went in, and my problem with it, and I think this goes back to having watched so many movies, is the template of films. The beat one, beat two, three-act structure is so stale. And I know they say there's only 7 plots in films.
Right.
But to me, and I guess maybe this is where Tarantino succeeded with Pulp Fiction, Christopher Nolan succeeded maybe with Tenet and Dunkirk. It's like there has to be a way to change that structure up. So, because you watch more movies in the theater than I do, is this a feeling that you have had yourself, or is it just you go in and say, for the next 2 to 3 hours, just hit me with entertainment and I'm going to be fine?
Well, movies, I say with my wife Sarah that they're our religion. And I mean that. And that is our church. So we're fortunate enough to have here in St. Louis an Alamo Drafthouse Theater, which I remember going with Tim Sanger to the one in Austin in 2000 and coming back and saying, there's a movie theater that brings you your food and you can get a beer and you pick your seat. And that was totally amazing back then. Yeah. Now, it's kind of every place, but Alamo still has the best, and I know they're owned by Sony now and things like that. So I've fortunate enough to have a partner that is, equally as enthusiastic about the movies, going to it. I took her to Fantastic Fest last year and really showed her, hey, this is a film festival, and she got so good at just nailing the tickets for the next day. And somehow you've been to these film festivals. Somehow it's exhausting to watch 5 movies a day. So no, we have a Movie Monday thing where we just that's the a time when her and I can just go there, kind of like Ron Howard, right? You go once a week, and some movies are better than others, but we just love the experience of Alamo, going a half hour before, seeing the pre-show. It's in a place called the Foundry, so it's kind of a different thing. But I don't know. I just stopped expecting so much out of everything, and a little bit maybe like you said on Masters, if you sort of lower the expectations, you'll be pleasantly surprised. But I'm saying come in with knowing nothing about the movie and you'll be so much better. It just seems like, I know it's expensive and things to go there and things, but it's just sort of like be entertained. Don't you want to be surprised? Like, why does everything in our society just have to be so pre-baked, pre-destroyed, this, that? So when something does come along, like a Project Hail Mary or something that has legs and like resonates, I guess it that definitely, you rarely see that or something. You and I lived through Forrest Gump, or like you said, Pulp Fiction. So I think there was always different levels, and I love, thinking about the early 90s and things, and like, what was the height of, if you were super rich back then or whatever and had a laser disc player, but now everybody's kind of super rich. There are things that were so premium and out of, touch, and now everybody kind of has that on their phone and stuff. So the entertainment model is broken. I mean, it's always been, almost the loss leader to sell cable TV subscriptions or, buttered popcorn. So I think we're in the middle of a revolution as far as just, and I know it's cliche to talk about AI and things, but the storytelling's we've democratized Ray Harryhausen suddenly, but something had to give. So I guess if anything, my hot take is when you watch a movie and those, 500 people coming up, 1,000 people coming up, like there had to be a better way to make something. So I can't help but get excited about some of the technologies I see to do movie trailers to things I've always wanted to do, but it's such a monumental task to get anything done. I feel like technology's only keeping up with attention spans and things, where you won't have to wait for Stranger Things and such. So Netflix is trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to figure it out. So again, it's never been a better time to be a creator, and probably a worse time to be like a media executive, we can get all into that.
Well, I was going to say, might be a good time to be a creator, decent time to be an executive, bad time to be a below the line worker.
Oh, for sure. No doubt. There used to be a path. You and I both went to SIUC Carbondale there in Illinois, and I got to speak there recently. And it's like, what do you tell these students as far as there was a path like we were talking about on the phone the other night? You go out to LA, you get an internship, and I think that's still to some level, but that economics of it, have just imploded, where I told them that they're probably going to end up working for a brand, or if they know how to drive e-commerce and video. So content has never been more needed and wanted, and building an audience, but the traditional way. But I still say there's creativity, there's storytelling, but it's evolving. I was one on vertical video. I was like, it's cool, like just embrace a new medium. And I'm old enough to remember debates between obviously video, film, obviously non-linear editing when people would swear by it. So it's just sort of a thing. I mean, who is shooting on film these days? Did Spielberg shoot Disclosure Day on film? I don't know, probably. But I think that the choice is as a viewer, I've never been better. And that's what I feel about some of this stuff with like, hey, you want your special effects? Sometimes you want to go to McDonald's, and sometimes you want like a gourmet meal. And just look at restaurants trying to figure these things out. All the legacy brands, the consumers never been more empowered, so they're struggling to survive. So again, it's never been a better time to be you, as far as when you wake up and the things you can do, and I just don't want to forget the joy and all that, and what would the younger versions of us say to the life we live now.
Yeah, I know that it's I've always said, if we had the access in college that we have now.
Oh.
Because we were working for a student TV station doing shows that only aired to the campus.
In the dorm, closed circuit.
And now we would have YouTube. We could get our stuff out there.
Probably be arrested, dead.
Probably. I mean, we did have some complaints when YouTube
close.
did come around. Yes, some of the stuff, but I just wonder what things would be like again. And this is, again, it's the system evolves, the climate evolves.
Yeah.
But do you think that it's ever going to get too much? So the few points I'm going to touch on here. So, we're recording this in 2026. 3 years ago, Hollywood went through an actor strike and a writer strike, which at the time I did not support as someone working in neither of those professions, but working in a studio. And part of my reason was the actors and the writers didn't have the leverage for the strike, because there is so much content out there already that the studios could shut down for the next 3 years.
Right. I remember during COVID, yeah.
Yeah. And we were coming right off of COVID, which had shut things down. So, I mean, like you were saying earlier, there's so much content, nothing feels special. And it goes back, again, I remember, when E.T. was in the theater and seeing the ads in the newspaper being like, in its 8th week in the theaters and its 12th week. Now, something comes up on Netflix, and 8 hours later, hey, here's something new on Netflix. And it
is.
As a creator, as someone, making films, how do you get your product then to stand out in the sea of just...
Well, I think
so
creativity cuts through. You're right. It's a sea of clutter, but also people are informed. So I think things can find an audience, and you can, the 1,000 fan theory. So I think, again, to your point, growing up, it was like you had the horror movies, you had the sci-fi, you had what we were into. But I'm sure those people that were our age were like, you guys don't get it. The real stuff was in the 60s, every generation. So I think it's as special as you make it, right? My son was here, and he was walking around seeing all the retro stuff, and he's like, Dad, why do you all this retro stuff? What do you think? And I go, I don't know, it's just a vibe, right? It just takes me back. And I go, oh, by the way, I bought you a vinyl record of Fortnite lobby music. And he goes, dude, and like put it on. He's like, oh, this takes me back growing up. So every generation is going to, romanticize the things and the core memories. But at the end of the day, you're sort of remembering the childhood and associating it with, like a song, or like a, video game and things. Why I love to watch, because it kind of takes you back to maybe a time when you didn't have a mortgage, or something like that. But again, and I tell my son, I was just talking to him, and it's just like every stage has like, the challenges and the good things, but boy, there's just great things. Things like, I know it's almost cliche to reference Obsessed, but like came from nowhere. I didn't know anything. I had a friend who was like, you got to see this movie. And I go, great, we're seeing it tomorrow. Don't even know anything about it. And it was so fun to discover that and then feel everybody else discovering. So that's my power move tip to folks. Get the Thursday night thing. Don't read about it. Get out of it. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's go in cold, and you will have so much more fun at the movies again. I think, there's so much good stuff out there. We just watched Widow's Bay over the weekend and devoured it. What a great directed show, acting, comedy, horror. Fantastic. But you're right. What's next, right? There's always just like, we got to go catch up on that. Amazon's Fallout series. We love it. There's just so much good stuff. You're right. You have an overabundance of good stuff. We had a show on Quibi, a show I pitched Murder Unboxed that for Coolfire Studios where I work. And I remember when Quibi came out, it was like there's already so much stuff, and I'm here at the pandemic, and you're like, I don't want to download another app. But you got to give a shout out to Quibi. They were on the microdrama thing way before anybody else, and now microdramas seem to be the new independent film, where this is the way out, everybody. And again, it just sort of always is evolving, and you've got to stay on top of the trends, or else you'll just sort of get left behind. But I say to anybody, it's like you got to create your own opportunities too, as actors and things like that. You got that happened in the independent scene and things too. So I don't know. Don't wait around for someone to. If you got a story to tell, there's never been a better, or there's tools out there to tell it.
Well, and that's an interesting point, I think, with the box office numbers this year, because you mentioned
Right.
Supergirl did not do well. We mentioned
Right.
Masters of the Universe did not do well.
Right.
Obsessed, Project
From
Hail
nowhere.
Mary, Backrooms, all
Meme.
yeah, these is it to a point where, because the focus has been on known IP for so long, that if you look at the history of the last 10 years of how many superhero movies have there been,
Oh, man.
to where
Yeah.
what makes Supergirl stand out amongst the rest,
Oh, I hear you.
to make it different, and are people
Yeah.
just like, hey, you know what, I've seen 60 films already in this genre, I want something new. And it is, I guess, is that the place for I think we kind of already answered it, but if you have an original story, and I know it's hard to get the studio to take the
That's
chance
exactly
on
it. Mm-hmm.
but if you can get the financing yourself, and you do it, and then, because once the movie's already made, then studios are like, oh, well, we don't have to spend anything, we can just pump
Right.
it out, and
But still, they
reap the
screw them over
benefits.
anyway.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Yeah. And then self-distribution. I don't know. I can think a lot of filmmakers would be doing, YouTube channels and things like that. But there is good work being done out there. Garage Beer, the Kelsey brothers and things do fantastic, short film commercial work. So while I work in commercials, it's fun to see a commercial I worked on play on TV or something like that. It does give me a creative itch. So I tell, students graduating now, it's like, if you're just getting paid to be creative, you're winning, at this point. But again, making your own opportunities, making your own businesses, that's where we can still create and not have to go get real jobs.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
is
well,
ultimately the goal.
Well, let's shift there, because, again, as we said in the intro, you were making films as a kid. That was your goal, going to college, studying film. And then you didn't move to LA.
No.
That was the expectation. But,
Mhm.
and I think Danger Ranger might still be in production technically for the tax
I can finally
credits.
finish that. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I haven't aged a day.
Yeah. So let's tell me, why didn't you move to LA? What changed?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I just found opportunities here, which I remember distinctly telling my mom that, she's like, well, find around in St. Louis. And I'm like, what does St. Louis have but Voltron, Defender of the Universe, old 80s action series. I shouldn't say I should say OG. And so that led to an opportunity. I started working in corporate and industrial, and suddenly got sucked into a really cool brand in Voltron, and Ted Koppler, who ran World Events Productions, and now his son Bob does, had a technology company. So I found a good job with him and was able to edit, live a life of a geeky, creative, kind of brand manager, bring the DVD back, go to the Comic-Con, see you, go out to LA. We had a movie in production for, years, as far as we worked with every producer from Mark Gordon. It was fun. We had Justin Marks do the original Voltron script. So latching onto Voltron, it just felt like I could have an LA life with a Midwest backyard, and, ended up getting married, starting a family and things, which is what folks do. But I don't know, man. I've been extremely lucky to be able to have a hand in entertainment and creativity, and I'm sure I would have had a blast in LA. But I don't know. It always never appealed to me to kind of, and having done the internship out there and back in the day at Young and the Restless and things, it just felt like I could stay and have stories be close to family and still satisfy a creative itch. And to your point on, Danger Ranger and things, I was making short films and got to throw these things up on YouTube before, YouTube was even a thing. And, we collaborated on cartoons and things and such, that TikTok before it was TikTok, and got to be on a Spielberg reality show. So there were certainly all these opportunities, but it always felt like I had the control, and I didn't want to go out somewhere and ask for anybody for permission to make things and do things. And it's been tough to see friends in LA as far as just, scrapping by or building a life, and some have been, super successful and things. So that's good, but it's just never, I don't know. It was such a hustle at the time, and ended up getting it with, the Voltron folks and then now Coolfire Studios, and just, making a living doing things. And every day I still wake up and get to create, and it's a blast. So I don't know, it'll be the great I wonder what would have happened, but boy, there's really more talented people than me and things that went out there, and then frankly now I'm just too old, right, to get involved in anything. Yes. and who's going to listen to this unk? So I don't know. I do think about it every once in a while, but I also think LA, it's tough. It can chew you up, but now it's really tough. I don't know. Too late now.
Too late, but I think you made the right call.
Thank you. That's validating, because I do think about that.
Yeah, I moved out here almost 20 years ago, and at the time it was a point of the job that I had, which I enjoyed directing news, but the rest of the job wasn't satisfying, and there were issues with the job itself, with the company, and I'm like, I'd want to come out and say I did it and failed.
You did?
Then sit back and say, well, I wonder what could have been,
Yeah, which I'm cursed with.
Yeah, but having done that, now I sit here and go like, oh man, what was I thinking?
You'd be running that station, buddy.
Had I known what the future held. But I just feel like so getting back on track with fandom here is, I don't know if it's by working in LA and seeing everything goes on behind the scenes, or if it's just getting old, or like I said, watching too much, having seen too much. The fandom of film isn't as strong as it used to be. And that's, when I sit down and watch TV, just throw the TV on, I'm like, I just want something on, kind of background noise. 7 different streaming channels. Oh, you know what I really want to watch? This show or this movie. Not available.
Good luck.
Okay, well, again, I have thousands of options and nothing to watch. It's a weird time
economy,
But
well, that's where you can go on YouTube, and I think it's fun to just watch deep dives, and having worked in promotion, digital video, it's been fascinating to see the rise of the smart TV is where YouTube consumption, when we first started doing programs and things, it was on the Xbox or laptop, people were watching things. So I don't know. I think also you just have to sort of find joy in different things, and sort of maybe you're outgrowing movies at this point, and sort of maybe you want to take up cycling or something. I do think we do grow to a point where I think we're all trying to recreate, we're chasing a dragon when, whatever fandom thing was the thing, and perhaps now we've, attention spans, and sort of, you've also, like you said, kind of seen it all. But I encourage you, to find those things. But then again, maybe it ends up, we all know fandoms of music, and now there's even sub-fandoms and stuff. So, of, sub of subs. So, I don't know. I encourage you to find something then that does give you that joy. And again, maybe it isn't even movies, and you can geek out and be a fan on some other level, some other thing.
Yeah, I still have my fandoms, and again, part of this series is just exploring fandoms and trying to see, like, okay, what happened? I talked about this in the first episode of this series. The hockey pucks behind me that you see came from traveling to see
going to every stadium. Yes.
After we finished that, after we went to Game 7 of the 2019 Stanley Cup, other than a preseason game the next season, I didn't watch hockey for 2 years. Because
I like it.
What was the point? Yeah. And, and over the last couple of years, I've gotten more back into baseball. YouTube, though, is probably the main thing because I think getting into YouTube videos is what has kind of inspired this series as well. Because
you see,
I've gotten into watching videos of people just talking, and I'm like, well,
yes,
I can talk. I have friends that know how to string sentences together. Let's talk.
Barely.
Barely, but they can.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story after we get off the air. And I think, that's where I guess the negative aspect of fandom plays the spoiler, I guess, is that, you know me, very cynical, said it before, but I don't like to be cynical. I don't like to just say, oh, that's crap for the sake of being crap. Full disclosure, the Odyssey, I'll see it eventually, but I don't have any major interest to see it because I'm not a Christopher Nolan fan.
Oh,
but I'm not going to say
here.
I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh man, you're going to go see the Odyssey on Monday. I can't believe. Why would you waste your time and money to go see that? I'm just like, hey, that's what you want to go see. Cool, if you want to go see Ariana Grande in concert, knock yourself out
On the same day as the Odyssey. I think, I try to get excited for things. I try to go back to the Entertainment Weekly summer movie preview. I was imagining like, oh man, you remember watching those or reading those and coming up and seeing that. So, again, it's about joy in life and just sort of, again, it helps to have a partner who that like, let me show you this. I want to show you what I was into. We have a little 5-year age gap. That's right, I'm a baller. But, so there's things. She had cool older brothers who, had her into TurboGrafx-16, anime, things like that. So it's fun to go like, what? You've never seen this. And then I love that YouTube has helped with fun facts of things like, how was the Final Fight video game? Oh, that's based on Streets of Fire. Oh, that's a movie over here, William Friedkin or whatnot. So deep diving on that stuff is, I'm just fascinated. To your point on YouTube has become TV for literally everyone, and whoever's listening to this, it's just right. You can find your people online. But you've always sort of been like that. We'd go to different WWF things back in the day, and thank you got me back into wrestling by taking me to Hell in the Cell and in 1997 and got me back in and were showing me things. What are the things that you enjoy? What was the last movie that blew you away?
See, that's a hard thing to say because I don't, other than Masters of the Universe, like what was the last movie? I mean, yesterday I watched Fraternity Vacation because I was going through Amazon Prime and that came up and I'm like, I haven't watched this in years. And you're looking at me like you don't know Fraternity Vacation.
What, is this a sequel to European Vacation or Vegas Vacation?
No, it's 80s movie. Tim Robbins, Stephen Jeffries, Amanda Beers.
You go deep cuts. Deep cuts.
It's
spring
break.
Okay.
Spring break in Palm Springs. But
I love that stuff of like this. Yes, this was a movie. Yes, this was a thing because there's so many. To your point too, I think we talked about on the phone the other night. There was still schlock and still things.
Oh, yeah.
Like you mentioned the feature of Star Wars. So it was all out there. And then I love rediscovering. Let's give this one another watch. Actually, got a bad rap back in the day.
Which quick plug that is part of the purpose of the Out of Touchtone video series, which as this episode goes up. A few episodes back on Out of Touchtone, we looked at The War at Home, an Emilio Estevez movie from 1996 that if you tell me you've seen it, I will be surprised.
I do remember it when you say it, but I haven't thought about it since
it was
1996.
released on 4 screens. So if you saw it or you know of it, then that's pretty impressive. But
I remember reading about it in Entertainment Weekly or something.
Probably, because there was a cool story behind it. But my next thing I was going to say is talking about schlock. Soul Man, should it be remade?
Yes, but by black creators or something. I don't know. I saw Scary Movie, the remake. I took my now stepson, and I was like, I am the worst parent right now. But we got taked at stuff. What was your movie that you saw that you should not have watched?
How much time do we have?
Right? Porky's comes up a lot.
Porky's, Times Square, any horror film in the 80s. I was watching as a 10-year-old. I watched Nightmare on Elm Street the day it premiered on HBO. I was 10 years old. And I'm like, this is not
Isn't that fun, though?
suitable.
Gosh.
And now my girlfriend's son is 13, and I'm like, should he be watching Medea movies? I don't.
Right.
I don't know.
They are, it's something. Every generation, has that. And that's what, I guess, having worked on Voltron for so many years, and, that's my first up close and personal fandom thing, as far as that's a 1980s property. The history of the show is, it's an anime show created by Toei, a animation studio very famous out of Japan. And at the time, a lot of independent broadcasters were looking for content. And at the time, the dollar to yen was in a place where you could acquire shows, much like Battle of the Planets, Gatchaman, G-Force, Speed Racer, Gigantor. And there were supposed to be 3 different Voltrons of the near, far, and middle universe. So in some markets, a series called Armored Fleet Die Rugger premiered, a.k.a. Car Voltron, and did okay, but it was a tape mix-up. They were asking for a show called Daltanius, which almost became Voltron, because all of these toy and episodes, it was coming out of post-World War II. The munitions factories went ahead and started making like die-cast toys instead of, bullets and things. So it was a real formula there. And they sent the wrong tape. Instead of Daltanius, it was a show called Beast King Go Lion. And this is, you can look this up on, YouTube and things. And the legend is, Ted Koppler, Peter Keefe, all the folks around, John Teichman were like, this is the one. You can watch it. And it was a real, Ted liked to say, macabre type show, but fantastic as far as the robot lions and just a real great visuals. The toy itself, a die-cast trophy of the playground, if I've ever seen one. So it really touched a lot of folks, came in hot. They later had to do a season 2, but the show had actually aired in 1979 in Japan, so they had to go to Korea to get the animation done. And just putting all this together, these smoky rooms full of pizza and cigarettes, is really a fascinating image. So that had come around, and there had been some revivals, Voltron 3D, back in the 3D craze and things, and there were some Devil's Due comic books. So the brand was sort of dormant, so we decided to get it going again through, even just revising the website, getting it out there. It had been in some Sprite ads. The Wu-Tang Clan had name-dropped Voltron, so it always had a cultural resonance. But just getting that movie done back when, Transformers was big, was just so difficult. And now the movie's finally going to happen, coming out next year, and it's all shot with the director of the Red Notice. So Sterling K. Brown is in it, Henry Cavill. So that's a dream come true. We'll see how it is. But you bet, I've got a term, couch busters, which is instead of blockbusters with wrapped around, what's that movie that's waiting for you and when you come home on the couch. But I don't know, there's all kinds of entertainment for sure, and like, how do you keep these brands relevant? Like He-Man had a real uphill battle to do that, and I thought they made a lot of nice choices. I hope it does really good on streaming, and maybe in the end, I think we don't appreciate the age gap that truly, we think kind of He-Man, oh, that's been around forever. That's old dads. Like that doesn't mean much to a younger movie going. And then, older people our age, which, having worked in TV and things, like the History Channel's going after us. It used to be my dad with World War II. Let's see how World War II ends. So, that I was the fan manager, for Voltron, essentially the fan ambassador for many years in the forum, and would go to Comic-Cons and still go to VoltCon in October here, and go where I tell my wife I'm a minor celebrity. So it was interesting to see those early forums and fans, and there's always been, I guess, a bit of a toxic relationship, right, where they, no matter what, they're sort of trying to recreate. But it's like, go watch the original. Like, you don't have to watch this stuff. Like, there's a business that has to be made here, and you have to do new content. And I had the chance to produce Voltron Force, an animated series in 2011, that aired on Nicktoons. And it was so tough to, like, balance all the characters. I feel, for JJ and all these folks who are trying the Marvel, like, balance the new and the old. Well, here's the young recruits coming in. And so there's so many cooks. There's so many, that's why Christopher Nolan movies are a singular vision, I mean, I know it's a collaboration, but so it's so tough just to do any sort of, and it's just working with, everybody sees it a little differently, and then budgets and the things we were doing. And I will say we were launching at a time right around Netflix maturing, and there was a thought that there's no way you can launch consumer products off Netflix, But the mistake we made, like Voltron Force, we should have had it on Netflix that January where we had a little break of kind of a full season, 26 episodes. It was coming back, but it was a blast to work on a cartoon and, get I'll call them the dailies from overseas and, just be a big kid again. Got to write an episode, put my son in it, Ghost and the Lion. Doing the Sven things, but it was tough to like even go and say like, hey, this Sven, he's part of this, and the producers, nobody knows that, and then to see what Voltron Legendary Defender did later on Netflix, which I consider, the way to do it with the art direction, the consistency, the story, drawing from Go Lion. So most, younger people-ish see Voltron Legendary Defender as their Voltron, right? So similar to Star Wars, I do think though it's okay. We can all have our different flavors, and now, as you remember, you used to tape traders or something like that. You had to find the tapes, and Sarah tells me that about anime. You'd send the tapes, and she was literally dubbing and things like that, which is so cool. It's now we can have a show like this and just discuss this stuff, which I'm more concerned about what happened to all the truckers and CB radios and all the great programming that's lost to time, where some truck driver was probably spitting wisdom and it was probably some of the most entertaining things. But it all comes down to personality, connection, and, people just still want to hear stories, tell stories, and connect with other humans and sort of share that. So I think that's something, too, of just like if you can share it, in kids too. I'll say when you bringing kids to the theater and living through their eyes is a lot of fun, but it's always going to be just different stuff. And half the stuff you show kids, they end up just falling flat, right? They're like, this is old and stupid. Like, who would watch this? So that's been a joy to kind of share, something you love with someone you love. That's another way to sort of, I'm going to see it through their eyes. But nostalgia has a way of tinting, right? You look back and you're like, ooh, man, that was wow. It's a little rough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you still have the Voltron suit? Or costume?
Well, the Voltron mascot, which was made for my specifications, shout out to Madewell Mascots in Canada. Indeed, it's a little rough, but that thing has been on TV shows. That thing has gone everywhere. San Diego Comic-Con. That was a total blast. So you remember in SPC TV, I called up World Events Productions and went to a really early website of them, and they sent some tapes, and then we dubbed them and sent them back, and we had Saturday morning noon tunes. So I don't know how, but somehow I've been able to thread, and now at Coolfire Studios, we did everything from shows to Build-A-Bear. Coolfire Studios itself has had 19 television shows produced. So, but now we're sort of in this area of like, branded entertainment and docu-follows, and it's certainly tough as far as, everybody has a video production industry, and now we've launched a new, AI research company, AI Video Screenburn, and connected that with, even things like lawyer ads, which is not exactly on the hierarchy of, video, but we want to change that and do some creative things in legal marketing, and we are, and, won some awards and have over 20 law firms across the country. So that's a fun way to be creative. And now, bringing to life somebody like, Jim Adler in Texas, the Hammer, we're doing cinematic things. So somehow always been able to, itch the creative, but I've been thinking lately like, oh gosh, I should dust off some of the things we were working on. And, now with these tools available to us, Higgsfield and CDAN, hey, we can do full-time ninjas, or so we can do these things where you were animating in After Effects. We can make those jokes, and it still comes down to the idea and the concept. And I know a lot of people are, freaked out, rightfully so, AI, particularly, animation and the things we did to do this. But I think there's still a human element in it. And when you're filming someone in a performance, and a lot of the times when we're doing commercials, you still have to lay down a human track to it. So there's an energy to it that reminds me of the early independence and things. So, I don't know the answer. I think everyone has to have their own individual journey. But like you said, I know we love YouTube. That's for sure.
Yeah, I never would have guessed YouTube to be what it has become. But
you and I were there.
I never would have guessed streaming would have taken off the way that it did. And I think, which is probably why I'm not at the forefront of a studio, not running a studio right now, because I don't have that forethought to say like, hey, what's going to be big in 10 years? Soul Man 2.
You are stuck on Soul Man. I think you need to do Soul Man 2. And you can run it through AI just to like do a little trailer, a little proof of concept. You know?
No, if
I don't
I
know.
do a sequel, I'm doing La Bamba 2. That's my sequel I want to do.
Wow, that reminds, that's Eddie and the Cruisers too. Like, didn't he die? Like, wait a minute. Yeah, I love the good sequel that just impossible. Where are they getting this from? There's a couple other examples of that off the top of my head. Like, what are just some where you're like, part 2? I mean, Joker 2? Like, just these things that were just sort of unnecessary. Like, oh, but even that considered, whatever, you can see. I just love watching artists work, whether it's from like pro wrestling to musicians to stand-up comedians and to films, where you're like, this is an expression, and you could see even in Joker 2, like we are going to just go, you can imagine the conversations behind the scene. We're going to open with an animated thing. We're going to do like, it was just carte blanche, do whatever you want. Almost a middle finger being punk to a big studio. It's wild, man. It's a fun time, though.
Well, I mean, I've heard Joker 1, Todd Phillips got Joaquin Phoenix involved by saying, we're going to do a crime film. I'm sorry, we're going to do a heist film. We're going to steal $20 million from Warner Brothers to do Joker.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
I probably need to go back and rewatch Joker 2 because I had watched it again, and this is saying after you say go in blind, but after hearing all the negative about Joker 2, then I saw it when it came to HBO Max, and so my expectation was already like,
low.
This is gonna be so bad, and I went in going
and then it was,
hey, it's not that bad.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I think, but I think, like you were saying though, that point of when you, let me stop, rethink, re-rack, in wrestling, talking with Kevin Huntsberger of My 123 Cents, we often say when a wrestling storyline doesn't go the way the fans have said it should go, they get disappointed because like, well, you didn't do what I think you should have done. And it's like, well, we never said we were going to. We never promised this. That's what you put on yourself. So now you're disappointed at something that was never planned. And I think film fans get the same way, where it's like, okay, you're doing, the new Star Wars film, but you're not doing it the way that I want Star Wars done. So therefore, it's bad. And granted, Last Jedi is terrible and should be stricken from the planet.
Why? What is with that? I remember having a great time in the theater with Last Jedi. Maybe I need to rewatch that. I thought all of those were fun. To your point, it's the closest thing to like, hey, a Star Wars world with some humor, and just JJ did a great job with just balancing all that. Those characters are just the set pieces, just so fun. But again, you can watch the old Star Wars anytime, pull it out, and try to watch it. Honestly, I was watching it with my stepson here, and it's slow. Like it's to the you better get them young, because if they've discovered Call of Duty, they're probably not watching. They're probably past Star Wars. And that was when we were working with Mattel. They always said of like, what you go in the toy aisle now, and all the action figures, the high end stuff, that's for us. See all the Voltron stuff. I just bought a Hasbro Matrix, off a Hasbro thing, and for Transformers, and then, or else it's super young, right? And you're going after like all the Batman stuff's nearly preschool level. So the kidult, category has somehow kind of become one of the main thing. And when we were doing, Voltron Force and trying to get the toys out and such, that was a big deal to get any toys. And that used to be, since kind of Star Wars, right? The name of the game was like, we're going to sell toys. Well, what happens when kids just don't even play with toys anymore? So, or they do, and they're digital. You look at things like Roblox, or the continued, staying power of Fortnite in it. So to me, those are Minecraft. Those are the kind of, champion things that the kids will be totally nostalgic for and move into other media. But at the end of the day, the numbers, the Minecraft movie's a blip as successful it is compared to the numbers that the game does, So it's interesting, and there are still fun creators and things out there doing interesting things, and there still will be, but they may be on micro levels. I'll follow folks on Instagram who are hilarious, just little comedy stuff and little, what we used to call web comics back in the day. So I think, but the creativity, the ideas, and hopefully some talent will never go away.
Yeah, and I think talent, like you said, the talent is there. How we discover it will be changing in the future. And the talent that deserves to be found, I think, will rise. They will find their way to be
For
seen.
sure. Yeah.
And again, I think it actually now. I mean, Andy Warhol, famously said, everyone's going to have their 15 minutes of fame, and I think we're seeing that now. If only this show can become the new Hawk Tuah, then it'll be great. But
Well, that's right. Those are the cultural moments, right?
Yeah.
Is that going to be resonant? I always laugh at like who's going to play the Super Bowl halftime show, and we're entering the age where we're not disagreeing because we're entering the fractionalization thing, right? And they're like, oh, blah 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 blah. But like again, somebody in the controversy of like a Bad Bunny who has so many fans all over the world. You see a business like you're like, this is the most streamed artist, but like it's not Garth Brooks or whoever was the most top selling CDs back in the day at Walmart. So but it's fun, but you can have it all now, and I think there is a craving to go back to physical media. Look at the resurrection of vinyl, which I finally got into, and I'm like, oh, this is fun, and this is a warm sound, and again, it's more of a collector and like having all of the things than necessarily. I'm like you. I want to be more like you, where you give yourself a task to say, I'm gonna a challenge. I'm gonna go through and see all this stuff, and that's what Sarah and I are determined to do. Like, we're gonna sit and play this game, and really, we have a thing we call Finish It Fridays, and we go and there's an obscure arcade game from the emulator or something over there, and we're like, tonight we're beating bad dudes. Tonight we're going through Double Dragon, and all these things as a kid that you begged for quarters. You can blow it away in 15 minutes. I will say there's something to not having to put the quarter in that's not as special when you have to literally invest money, precious money. You wanted to get everything out. Now in a world of infinite lives, what gets us? We just might be growing up too.
might be. I was gonna say I'm gonna see you in like a week and a half. My Finish It Friday for you is you and Sarah to watch all 8 Police Academy movies.
I've thought about that recently, and I was going to get together with my buddy Ed Herman from Brown and Crouppen, who we do commercials and things with, and he's been a spirit animal for many years. And that was one of the things. Did you do that? Did you end up doing that?
I have not. I think I've seen the first 7. I never saw Mission to Moscow.
Wow. They got like, and that, for instance, on YouTube, I was watching that it was a kid TV series, a canceled NES game.
Cartoon, yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah, there's a whole genre of rated R, 80s movies that ended up being kid TV shows and things. Because at the end of the day, we were watching RoboCop. We were watching The and things like that. So I don't know, man. Somehow our Gen X, we're now the old people. That's for sure.
My body reminds me every day.
I mean, geez, oh Pete, yeah. So I'm trying to embrace the unkness, as the kids would say, and just sort of ease into it, having fun. Next weekend I'm gonna hang out everywhere from a county fair to a Missouri Game Con to a film festival town hall on AI, ethical AI use and such. So I think, look, this world is what you put into it and your attitude. And I think often, despite my, olden grumpiness, the world around me keeps me happy, and working with people I get a thrill out of, and, being a leader inside a company and owning a piece and really forming it, that's fun to grow stuff. So, and sometimes, you're so exhausted, right? By the time you just watch a movie, you're like, anything. And I tell you, this is the biggest thing of anything on this podcast. I used to never understand how my dad could sleep through a movie. We're at the movies. Are you joking me? This is great. Yeah. Now I will literally purposely, like, I got to nod off for a little bit and just kind of wake up and what's going on? What happened? Or just let it shut the eyes. So that's part of it too.
Then I would say, this goes back to my point of movies are so formulaic that you can nod off and wake up and be like, okay, yeah, I know where we are in the 3-act structure.
Probably. Try other things. I don't know. Look into micro dramas or try foreign films or something. There's a lot of cool stuff. It just really depends on, what you're into. What do you like about wrestling? I remember you telling me back in the day, like, the surprise of Monday Night Raw, the 1-2-3 Kid pinned Razor Ramon. Like, what do you like now? The performance, the story, the characters? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it is the athleticism, the story, and as I discussed with Kevin, I don't watch WWE as much. Like, I'll watch the monthly shows, but Raw, I don't watch SmackDown at all. Raw, I'll watch for a little bit, but I don't miss AEW. I watch Dynamite and Collision and all the pay-per-view because to me that is a better product. Whereas
Sure,
WWE,
they're marketing. You're the fan. Yeah.
Yeah, WWE is about, the way I separate it in fans is WWE, which coined the phrase, they are sports entertainment.
Right.
AEW is sports entertainment. And I prefer the sports aspect more than the entertainment aspect of wrestling. So
For sure, yeah. And that's why I tell people who aren't wrestling fans, I can pick out a couple matches, and you will be by the time you watch this. And I just like keeping it casually on. And last weekend we had Widow's Bay up on one screen, another screen in the living room had the World Cup, and the other one had UFC on it. So we're living the dream as far as just the media consumption and while we're around. So I can't complain.
Yeah, we've all caught up to Elvis, who had his 3 TVs in the jungle room.
I know, that's what I'm saying. We're all sort of media moguls now, and it's just like. But there's something about, I don't know if we could take it, like walking. Have you opened up your old laptops lately or something? Just the thickness of this huge Dell or something. You're like, I used to just walk around with this. It was a very blocky world, but now all the young people are into the analog. They'll come in my office and look at the VHS camera. Oh, so cool. Like, man, did you shoot on this? This was terrible, filming it. And now I tell Rich Zimmerman, like, all of your movies from the 90s, they need to be on TikTok. People would flip out. They get excited about seeing a mall in the 90s. You have an entire movie that takes place in high school in the 90s. Like, are you kidding me? So one day we'll get him. He would be a huge TikTok. I mean, everybody would. This is a time capsule. So that's what's fun about it. And at the end of the day, you're there for your kids, raising them, and they're just going to be into their things, and all you can do is you try to share this stuff. But I don't know, I think for my folks it just felt like pop culture stopped when you had kids. I don't recall my parents per se being into any new music. I know there's other parents that are cool, and that I should say they worked really hard, of course, and they took care of us, but there was not concerts to be gone to. I feel like our generation is much more hands-on with the parenting and kind of sharing of the things. So it's fun. I mean, there's a lot of young music that I don't quite get, but there's a lot that I do. And I'm like, oh, I get that. That's actually pretty cool. Maybe I'm just in that crossover cool parent for a little bit longer.
I mean, I have a theory on that, and I will tell you about it later. I'll save it for my book.
Okay.
But thanks for coming on. I'm going to wrap this up.
Anytime.
This has been great. And I think, the key takeaway from this discussion is, other than just be a fan of what you want to be a fan of, is the multicultural, the multi-generational fandoms that exist. And like we said, just because we grew up with the original Star Wars, kids today have Grogu. And if that's the Star Wars they like, cool. Voltron, you have your different generations. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's no wrong fandom.
Right.
Unless you're a diehard Last Jedi fan. And then that's...
We'll have to debate that next time. But I'll come back on anytime. And I love, if anyone's in the comments, hearing about things like the first movie you saw. I love hearing about just video games that inspired. I always love hearing the first of something, as far as like, what was I love, what was that VHS or that horror movie? That's a good one that scared you or got you excited. So I love all this stuff. Just enjoy it. And I would say, in a world of information overload, wall yourself off purposely to just be able to enjoy things and not set, like you said, it's all about expectations. And I feel like there's so many things that are just expectation. In the end, just enjoy it, people. Just relax, okay? There's always something. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, just go outside.
Exactly.
Go for a walk.
And like I used to tell all my dates, just keep your expectations low. You won't be disappointed.
And there you go. And then you're sort of like Joker 2 there. You're like, it's a little weird, but I like it.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, question everything.